Welcome to Charity Therapy, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of the nonprofit sector and answer your burning questions. I'm your host, Jess Birkin, owner of Birkin Law Office, and I'm excited you're here. Imagine hanging out with me and my super smart, funny nonprofit expert pals. You get to ask them anything about your nitty-gritty nonprofit life and get their wisdom for free. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just strapping on your nonprofit boots, we're here to share stories and remind you you're not alone on this journey. So get ready to join the conversation and bring me the tough questions. I ain't scared. Ready to rock? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. Today, I am joined by my friend Justin Bieganek. Justin is the founder and brand advisor of Mercury Creative Group. He and his team work with nonprofits and associations to build and grow their brand to better reach their communities. Justin, thanks so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Jess. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, same. I'm glad you could be here. We met randomly through an association management friend, and I was just like, oh my God, I have to have you on the podcast. Let's do this.
Yeah, so call out to Angela Kiskis, our president over at Association Art. So thanks, Angela.
Right? Gotta love the people who make the connections in the world.
Agreed.
Okay, so I want to circle back to the thought of branding, because in the nonprofit world, I gotta say, working with a lot of small nonprofits anyway, I actually don't hear the word branding thrown around that often. Usually my clients are super hyper focused on fundraising, or maybe they talk about digital marketing. So before we kind of jump into the stuff here, the meat and potatoes, can you just kind of give me a nutshell of what is branding really, and why does it matter for nonprofits?
Yes, absolutely. Branding is the heart and soul of all organizations. Even us personally have personal brands. You can't fundraise and you can't market until you've got clarity around your brand. And your brand isn't your logo. It's not your tagline. It isn't your website. It's basically everything. All of your experiences, your touch points, logo, tagline, how you delivered a service, how your product actually works for somebody. It could be how somebody handles a service issue at an auto dealer. And if they are treated poorly, that locks into the mind and heart of that customer. And that's how they're going to talk to their friends or their family about that brand, is that experience. So a brand is really an emotional connection with an individual. So it's a living, breathing continuum, really. So that's what your brand is.
I love that. I also love your example of the how did you experience it? Because I feel like people say we haven't done any branding. Oh, yes, you have. You just didn't intentionally do it, right? Everybody has a brand, every person has a brand, every organization has a brand, and it may not be the one that you hang on the wall. It may be something else that is actually people's lived experience. So I love that you kind of frame it that way. Before we go too far down this rabbit hole, let's dig into with a question.
I'm going to quick start to jump in, Jess. It's up to that person or that organization. That brand already exists. So it's a matter of uncovering it and discovering it and actually putting words and visuals around it so everybody can talk consistently and in their own authentic way. It's so marketing and design can take those branded elements and use them out in the marketplace consistently again. So everyone has a brand, every organization has a brand. It's just a matter of really discovering it and putting it down on paper so it's official.
Well, with that, let's just go for our first question, because I have a feeling this is going to come up again. All right,
Okay.
Here we go. I'm the executive director of a cat rescue organization that's been around for about 15 years. We started out by providing a permanent home to elderly and disabled cats that can't be adopted. We have a great reputation and are well connected with the other animal groups in our area. In the past few years, we've expanded our mission and added several new programs: a pet food shelf, grants to help pet owners pay for emergency vet care, free spay and neuter services, free or reduced cost pet training programs, etc. With all this change, my board thinks it's time to change the org's name. I'm totally overwhelmed thinking about all the work that will come with a name change. How do I know whether it's worth it to take this step? Will we lose out on our name recognition, even though our name now doesn't really fit what we do anymore?
I have a lot of questions. I wish that leader was here with us to be having that conversation.
Well, they aren't, Justin, so suck it up.
I welcome that conversation down the future. I'm most curious about the expanded mission statement that they've put together, because that would help me understand, like, what was the previous mission and how is it expanded? Because that would help me understand where is this organization going. I can look at the expanded services that they're doing.
Well, and they don't actually say they changed their mission statement, which is kind of interesting. It's just talking about we've expanded our mission and added all these new programs.
I misunderstood that.
So I'd be curious whether they have changed their mission statement or if they're just like rolling with this. We just keep adding elements.
Yeah. So right out of the gates, kudos to them to be saving our furry family members and finding them a place and just getting out there and doing something really awesome to help. As they're growing, I think now it's time to sort of try to get your arms around what it is we're really doing. And again, kind of defining our brand now as we're helping rescue these older cats. And so I guess my ask back to that leader is, do you have any type of value proposition or any purpose statement that is built that maybe supports the mission statement? Because that's really helping everybody within that organization lead with purpose and lead with a message and also keep them on track like that. How do we not do something that's outside of our kind of our sweet spot and what we do so we don't muddy the waters? So that would be an important question to ask that leader as well. I'd be curious to know the current name because that could inform maybe where they were and where they're, or help me understand how to make a transformation and evolve that name. I used my last name when I started out the business, and it wasn't until like 10 years into it, like, this is problematic because for me to grow and hand over this organization, they're not going to carry on my name, in a sense, that legacy. So that's why we changed to Mercury, for example.
Yeah. I feel like we can assume the listener doesn't say this, obviously, but I feel like the name has the word cat in it. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to change their
Yes.
name, right? Like, I feel like they are saying they've broadened from being cat focused to sort of being pet focused. So I'm just going to imagine that their name is like, Cute Kitty Critters Inc. or something.
So even on that, if it's too cute and it doesn't really align or associate with what it is that they're really doing and how they've expanded into those offerings, then you have a disconnect. So that name is that first thing that people are going to hear or read. And if it doesn't kind of lead them or influence them into understanding what it is that this organization does for them, they're going to bounce. They're going to leave quickly. But if that name does give a hint to how they can maybe take care of this pain point of like, I don't know what to do with this cat, or I found this cat and I don't know what to do. So if that name helps them identify that this organization can help them, that's a good thing. And if it's not right now, then that's a problem. So
Yeah.
and they're kind of stating in here, like, I think we need to do a name change that no longer aligns. So that's the importance of a name right there.
I feel like there's something in here that is not being said. I get the drive to change the name, but I also wonder, like, are they backing up further and saying, what is our mission, vision, values? Considering we've added all these things, it may be time to like look at all of those things. And it's not just about like, oh, we changed the name. It's like, we need to like reevaluate our entire like branding, marketing, value proposition, our whole package. And we don't have a lot here with this question. One worry I would have is that, there's a board that's sitting around having a discussion and it's somebody's like idea that they're like, we should really change our name. And it's like trying to do this one thing in a vacuum doesn't make sense to me. What's your take on that?
Agreed. In a situation like this, taking that really big step back to evaluate, who are we? And if you're changing, that's awesome. But again, coming back to what's your value proposition? Who is it that we're looking to serve the most? How are we going to do that? And now build your value proposition around that. Put together that differentiator that's remarkable and memorable. That's where I would start. And that's a little bit of how we work as well, is building those core brand foundational elements like your value proposition, because that will inform the right name. That'll inform a new look for the logo, possibly typeface, colors. It'll inform how to communicate, and it'll inform how and where to communicate to find more of those like-minded, ideal people you want to help the most. So that's the place to go. And it'll also help you understand maybe you don't need to do a name change. You can go through all that work and come out of it with
Right?
realizing like our name is spot on, but our tagline or our messaging or how we're communicating outward isn't. That's off. So that strategy, which is messy, is all about value creation. And that's where you get clarity on what the name should be and how we should communicate. What are the right things we should do? And most importantly, to
Yeah.
stop doing. Like this executive director or this leader is like, I'm overwhelmed. Having clarity in your brand will help you make the right decisions, and it helps the
Yeah.
board and stakeholders also stay in their lane, or it allows that leader to say, nope, that's not on brand. That isn't something that we want to pursue.
Right. There's a great commencement speech by Neil Gaiman, and he talks about like being an artist. He's like talking to the grads of some art school, and he's talking about like, how do you know if you're headed in the right direction? And being able to like see like the mountain over there is where I'm headed, and I'm not there yet, but that
Mhm.
all of your decisions should lead like towards that mountain, and that you have to learn to say no to things that like don't lead in that direction. I think about that a lot
Yeah.
because it's easy for the little, everyday decisions that come up to sort of accidentally lead you away from the mountain. And I think that happens with nonprofits and mission drift, right? It's like, oh, well, we were offered this grant, or oh, this organization offered us this opportunity. And like pretty soon, it's like you're not even facing the mountain anymore, right? So I love what you're saying there of just about like, is this in alignment, and having structure around being able to consciously and thoughtfully say no to things because they aren't in alignment. And I feel like that's something that a lot of nonprofits need to work on.
Agreed. Agreed. But it takes some work and some time. And again, what really comes out of it, besides clarity and alignment with your leadership team and your team, is confidence in the leader, confidence in the board, confidence in your employees and your team to make decisions because they have that vision. They know where we need to go, and they're going to help keep the train on the tracks and not take you off track and not get to, that end goal, that mountaintop, that
Yeah.
vision that you're so seeking.
I think that the question, will we lose out on our name recognition? I think that's a very normal feeling to feel, right? And a normal fear that some people at the organization will have in a rebranding. How do you address that? Like when you're working with clients, like how do you sort of like talk people through that fear of change? Maybe like, oh, people won't know who we are anymore. That seems very natural to me. And how do you kind of
Yes.
address it?
First of all, a name change is one of the biggest changes, evolutions, transformations any organization will take, small or large. But it is one of the most opportunistic and best ways to re energize an organization, re energize your members, re energize your funders, your sponsors, your stakeholders, because there's that clarity and in vision, and you have this new life. So you can really go through all that work and really propel that organization forward. Is it a lot of work? Yes. What we do with our clients is we've done all that value creation, we've built their brand guide. Now where it's into a name change, we've identified that that's a necessary step. We always keep the organization's name in the list to look at. So, for example, we're going to bring in two unique names that fit for that evolution against their existing name. That way, this again gives them confidence to make a decision because we're comparing three options together and one is what's existing. What happens is 9 times out of 10, we move to a new name. And sometimes we stick with the old name because it still works, it's in alignment. And maybe the leadership group wasn't quite ready to make that change. But again, they have that confidence like, yes, we're sticking with our old name and we're not going to talk about this again
Yeah.
because the decision is made. We're going to work on other more important initiatives or love that new name. Now I have a new way to tell our story and, really break into new markets, break into in front of new people to a new audience. So for me, it's a huge opportunity for growth with a name change.
At the law firm, I'm not really working on rebranding and remarketing, but I do oftentimes urge clients to make some sort of change. And I often run into a lot of like fear around making the change, particularly with like member-based organizations, what will our members think? What will our donors think? You know what I'm saying? Like people get so afraid that they will leave people behind or make people upset that they just get paralyzed and they don't do it.
Yes, that's change. Change is hard. And nonprofits and associations are typically running super lean. So they don't have a lot of
Yep.
financial room to risk a change like that. So I think that's part of the fear. We turn the question back around to them: what will success look like if you make this change? And having them understand what that can look like. So it's really changing the mindset. So trying to get out of that fear and move it more into an opportunistic or growth mindset. But any change is hard. I struggle with change. I'm sure you struggle with change.
Oh,
It's
yes.
finding the people around you also to like hold you accountable and push you and sometimes pull you in the right direction.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I feel like this has got a lot of like good nuggets in here, and I want to try and sum them up. And let me know if you think I missed something. Like, first and
Sure.
foremost, is you just really cannot fundraise or market until you understand your brand. So, brand is really at the core of everything. And
Right.
yeah, your name is important. Your name is not the end all be all of your brand, though. What about your mission, vision, values, your value proposition, your tagline? It's not all in the name. I feel like there's a Shakespeare quote in here. There's some like, what's in a name? A rose by any other name? I don't even know. I don't have my Shakespearean quotes on point today, but it doesn't all come down to the name. When you think about your brand, it's way bigger and it goes all the way up to like, what are we even doing here? Who are we serving? So trying to not focus on just like the external component, I think is really important. And then I also heard you say that rebranding can be a huge transformation for the good, right? Getting that clarity around who you are and what you do can really re energize your team, your community, and can be a super positive. And then the flip side to that is change is hard, right? And it's going to be scary. And there are going to be scary feelings that come up with any sort of change.
Mm.
And a brand change is a big change, especially for organizations that have been around a long time. So focusing on the positive, focusing on what success
Yeah.
looks like, and kind of maybe using some visualization techniques of like the people who are going to be so excited to be a part of this can really help. Anything I missed?
What I would add is any type of evolution or transformation in your brand can be really vital, especially with the war on talent right now. So, for fundraising, also, it helps new donors, new sponsors, new volunteers want to align with your organization because they understand you, they align with those values and the mission of the organization. So, working through that change and really putting a stake in the ground for what it is that you're doing, others are going to come and align because no one wants to be sold to or advertised to or even marketed to. We're turning all that away. We're turning all those ads off, right? So think of that work that might be difficult is going to give you long-term growth and success by building a new team, by building additional funders, adding to your board of directors, which is always sometimes difficult to find new board members to continue that leadership. So there are all the right things to be doing with taking a look at your brand. So not just your name. So that's what I would add.
Yeah. I like that idea of like you're opening the door to 100 new people, not trying to keep the door closed
Yes.
on the small group that has been supporting you this whole time, right? Have an abundance.
And don't forget, if somebody doesn't like the name or they're curious on like why you made that change or whatever it is that you're changing with your organization, have a conversation with them. I guarantee you that it might be a little difficult at first, but that person who is just questioning why, if they are heard and have a chance to share what they were thinking with you, the leader or whomever, I guarantee you they're going to be a champion and they're going to get on board and understand why that change was made. So might be a difficult conversation, but it'll be very valuable long term.
Yeah, that's awesome. Justin, thank you so much for being here. If
You,
folks
Jess.
want to connect with you and find out about rebranding and all of that, where can they go to find you?
So I would go to Justin at mercurycreativegroup.com is my email or mercurycreativegroup.com. There's forms there. You could reach out, otherwise LinkedIn. So it's Justin M. Bieganek. on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with anyone. So thanks, Jess, for having me.
Yeah, we'll put those links in the show notes. Folks, if you think Justin is amazing, give this episode a like, share it with a friend. I know you know somebody who works at a nonprofit that has never thought they had a brand. So you go ahead and share this with them right now. Rate, review, subscribe in your podcast app. It really does help other people find the show. If you have a question or a story to share, I want to hear from you. Send it over. If you've got a branding, a marketing question, we'll have Justin back. So send those in to me and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jess.